In today's video, I'm taking a top producer that regularly writes $25,000 plus in final expense over the phone and analyzing a recent telesales call he made.
Hi, my name's Chris. I received your information that you submitted for your final expense policy for life insurance. I have February 18th, 1963, date of birth.
All right, so the opening Chris uses here is pretty standard. He introduces himself and why he's calling very quickly. The client right away knows that it's Chris about the final expense quote that she requested over the phone. And then Chris went along to do a couple of reminder statements. So this is important that you implement this in your script. You may have something, for example, like a favorite hobby, like spelunking. In this case, we had a date of birth. We had the date timestamp when they actually requested the quote itself. And the reason we do this is because, frankly, our clients forget things. They'll put something in while they're on Facebook or wherever they're at and then go about their day and forget about ever requesting the information. So make sure when you're selling over the phone and you're opening up the call that you remind them of something that would be unique to them, a date of birth, favorite hobby, or that kind of thing.
Yes.
Okay. Were you looking to add to an older policy, or do you not have one yet?
I don't even have one.
So what Chris is trying to do here is to figure out, does the client have existing coverage, or does the client need to get a policy because she doesn't have one? At our agency, the Dig Agency, we have two different word tracks in our current script that deals with people who have existing coverage and those who don't have existing coverage. Now, why would we do that? Because what we believe is that it takes a different kind of approach to sell someone who already has coverage. It's likely that they're going to have more resistance to change, so we need to bring them along a little bit faster in the script in order to convert them into a sale and maybe replace their coverage if it's bad, if it's not adequate enough. Likewise, if a client doesn't have any kind of coverage, well then we're going to have to flesh out the why a little bit more, figure out what's motivating them to get a policy, what's happened in their life recently. And so it's a little bit more of a belabored script to develop the why and the interest in buying today.
Let's see what we could do. Just to let you know, I'm appointed with a little bit over 50 companies, so my job is to find you the best available policy.
What we like to do here in the beginning of the script, somewhere in the beginning, just depends on how much rapport building we do intermixed, is we like to introduce ourselves. The client needs to know who you are, why you're calling, and what makes you calling them special to the prospect. In this case, what Chris did, he says, hey, just to let you know, I'm appointed with 50 major companies, implying that he shops around to find the coverage at the best price for the client. This is, again, really important. Most of you watching are probably brokers. You're selling different products, not just one. You may take that for granted, but to your clients, it sounds very unique. So always make sure that you mention that you shop around for your client to get them the best price, because that's going to differentiate you, meaning it's going to make you special in the client's eyes and more likely for them to buy from you.
I know how old you are. How's your overall health?
I'm a diabetic.
What do you take for that?
Insulin.
Okay. How many units a day would you say you take?
I think they said it was like 28. I have a meter.
Okay. Any complications in the last couple of years?
Now, what you're hearing here is getting into the health questioning part of the script. What we're doing here is getting right into the nitty-gritty. So when we ask questions about health, it's really important that you just don't take a baseline level answer. For example, when somebody says they have diabetes, well, there's could be different variations of diabetic issues, right? They could take just metformin or some kind of pill to treat it. They could take insulin, some kind of preventative for diabetic complications. They may have kidney problems. Like, there's a whole gamut of problems associated with diabetes. And the important point for you as the agent is make sure you're following up with digging deeper with more questions to figure out specifically the extent of the client's problems. Because if you don't do that, here's why it's important. Then when you get to the application to apply, you're going to have more often than not declines, rate ups, and you're going to have to backpedal and try to sell the client a higher price plan that maybe not what you originally wanted. So do your due diligence in detail up front with health so you can avoid the problems with getting a client not approved for the policy that you promised that you would be able to approve for.
I just went to the doctor 151.
Okay, perfect. So let's see what we could do here. Do you have a pen and paper to write down your options?
So again, we like talking about in our script. Again, we're not even 3 minutes into this, and we're giving the client an idea of the quote. Now, we're not just going to give the price and then take the money. There's still a good bit of this call left. But again, what we're trying to do with telesales, and this is our strategy, is really drive to the quote as quickly as possible. A lot of our prospects are beleaguered by hour, 2 hour long scripts, and we certainly were in the same boat with our prior scripts in the past. And we've really shortened it down just to get to the point and get to the quote, get the client hooked, and then remind them, hey, write these down. We're about to give you your numbers, so that they're interested, they're hooked. And then in this portion of the call is when we really start to sell the product, why it's special, what makes it different, and again, why they should buy.
You have a couple options. This is good. This you wouldn't qualify for term life insurance anymore with your health conditions. So only whole life insurance you would qualify for.
And that's what I'm looking for. Yes.
So a criticism here for Chris, there's no reason to bring up term insurance here. Unless the client had mentioned something specifically about getting term, that would have been different. But, we don't want to present different ideas to the prospect at the time of the close, especially with how we sell and what we sell. We're selling burial insurance. It's almost rare, if ever, that we sell a term policy in the place of burial insurance. I'm sure it happens, but it's like, vast majority of the time never happens. And the point is, if you start bringing up stuff that doesn't matter, even if they can't qualify, I don't know, it's like a unforced error. I would just say, so here's the plan you can qualify for, whole life, blah, blah, blah. And it turns out, of course, she wants it. So just, again, point for you out there watching this is watch what you say. A lot of you agents out there will add unnecessary stuff into your script that's not even there to begin with, and that will confuse, complicate the matter, and confused people don't buy, right? So you want to keep things simple in order to make the sale.
So the monthly payments will always remain the same. The premiums will never change. The policy amount, the death benefit, will always remain the same, and it will last till the day you die, no matter what age. If you are approved, you have a couple of choices. You could do a waiting period, or we could try for no waiting period.
Okay, so what we're doing here is building value. Here's how the plans work. It's whole life insurance. Rates never go up, coverage never cancels, and if you're approved, first day full coverage, but we have options for the 2-year as well. So again, this is important. The last call we listened to with another agent of ours, he did not cover this very important information. Why is this important? Because not all insurance is the same, and your client has to have a compelling reason to keep what you sold them. And many times, probably clients lose or let go of their coverage because they don't understand how it works, and they just are only motivated by the bottom dollar, which is never a good thing to be in as a salesperson, where price is the only differentiator. So with that said, do what Chris is doing here. Take time to build value, differentiate what it is that you're doing so that you can sell and keep the business and protect against other agents trying to replace you, because they will call your client even after they love you and buy from you and attempt to try to replace their existing plan.
Did you have a certain budget that you wanted to stay under?
Yeah, that's kind of going to have to do with it. And, most of what I looked at when I was looking online was like $45 a month, so on and so on. And so you want to stay around there. Okay.
So that's not exactly what she said. She just said, that's kind of what I've seen, but that doesn't necessarily mean that she can afford more or she can't afford more. And this is important because script-wise, I don't like this. It's not terrible, but I don't think it's optimal. What I prefer agents to ask instead is, so if I can qualify a program today, and I'm looking on my grid here, there's one here for $400, that's pretty expensive, right? What if we could find someone that was let's say it's a little bit less, maybe between $150 and $200 a month, and then shut up and then let them react to it based off of if they like what they hear or they don't, and then lower that price going down, even down to 10 to 20 bucks a month. And the reason I like doing this is because it allows you to not leave money on the table while also making sure that the client gets the budget range that they want, all without putting pressure on them to buy. And again, this is called selling the premium. It's been a mainstay in the DeFord script for many, many years, and it's worked wonderfully well face-to-face and over the phone. So unless you already know the client has policy and what their price is and they're shopping it to try to get a better value, this is the script we like to use to maximize our premium, but without putting pressure on the client to take a certain price, because they can just always lower it down.
I don't have a lot of debt. I have, somewhat savings. I'm retired. But I'm ex-military.
Thank you for your service. Thank you very much.
I also know they will cremate me for, I think, less for money than they would outside. And everything I've already got all my ducks in a row on what goes where. And,
so then you want like a small little policy then?
Yeah, I was looking at like 10 grand. Okay. Yeah.
So again, little thing I would say here is Chris is dictating just slightly, so you're saying 5,000. Let the client say what they want. Again, size is a perspective thing. You know, 10,000 may sound big to us writing these plans when we know we could write like 3,000, right? But 10,000 may sound small. 25 to 50,000 may sound big to them, right? So my point is, when they're saying all this stuff, yeah, I've got my stuff, my ducks in a row, I just need a small plan. Instead of saying, okay, you need like 5,000, I would say, okay, what amount were you thinking would do the job and you'd be happy with? And the way you would frame that question too, you can frame it in a way that says, implies that they're going to buy. So how much coverage would you need to feel good with moving forward with a plan that you know would be enough to take care of things? And there's a way to word that probably a little better. It's off the fly there. But as opposed to giving them arbitrary numbers, because you may be selling yourself down as opposed to getting the client coverage that they actually want. And why is that important? Because if you sell them something a little too cheap or too little, they may be influenced by the next person that calls to try to get a bigger policy, which is what they really wanted to begin with. So instead of giving them numbers, ask them what they want to accomplish.
Understood and agreed. Even something is better than nothing, no matter military, I'm from a military family. Everyone, we had a long talk, and everyone has a policy because I had to pay for 2 funerals. And if somebody even had $1,000, I would have been very thankful.
Now, I like the script that Chris has used. It's one of my personal all-time favorites. Hey, something's better than nothing, right? Very hard to argue with that as a prospect, because sometimes you do get clients in there who want the big plans, but their budgets don't allow it. And some clients without a proper mindset shift will just say, well, I'll wait to buy what I want, but there's no promise for tomorrow, right? So this is where something better than nothing comes in. Let's get you started with something that at least will do the job. Is it perfect? No, but is it better than nothing? Absolutely. And most people will agree with that. And that is a nice little script to move the ball down the field and get more people to buy that may be on the precipice of buying.
A $10,000 policy, you have 2 options. You could take a waiting period, meaning you would be covered immediately for accidental death, but there would be a 2-year wait for natural death. That would be $42.51.
4251 with a 2-year waiting.
With a 2-year wait for natural death, not accidental. Yeah, you would be approved immediately for accident. Now, with no waiting period, where you're approved for everything immediately, they want $58.87.
So what we're getting pitched here, this is unusual. I never really like doing this. I'll explain to you why. But what Chris is doing is pitching simultaneously the first day full coverage and the 2-year wait product. And in this case, interestingly enough, the 2-year wait is less expensive than the first day full coverage option. And the likely reason is that the level first day coverage is standard pricing, which is a little bit higher than preferred. Whereas some of our GI products are very competitively priced, or near GI products. And so there's going to be this difference where, and unusually as it is, the 2-year wait is less expensive than the standard price, which usually it's the inverse. And what Chris is trying to do is give the client the option. What do you think is most important to you? Do you want first day full coverage at a higher price, or do you want to get this 2-year wait product at a lower price but pay a little less money? And actually, come to think of it, it's not really a bad strategy whatsoever. In this unique case, I really wouldn't recommend to take out, say, a plan option for all options. But I think what Chris is sensing intuitively here is, since there's a large enough discrepancy in the differences in price, that let's let the client decide which is best for them. Maybe they're more price sensitive, so let's go with the 2-year wait and they're okay with it. Or let's go with the first day full coverage if they feel a value proposition is better with that. And either way, you've secured the client, which at the end of the day is what we're all trying to do. Oh yeah, other thing Chris is doing here, this is important too. When you're giving prices over the phone, make sure you say each numeral. So it's $58.15. So I would say $58.15. So write this down, that's 58.15. Sometimes, especially if you say 50 versus 15, clients won't understand the difference. When you said it was 50, they think it's 15, right? Say each letter out, or each numeral out, so that they fully comprehend and understand the actual price.
I'm almost thinking about doing the 2-year waiting. I want to talk it over with my sister, because it seems like my sisters call me, one sister calls me a tank. The other sister says, if they drop the bomb, you're like a cockroach. You're still going to survive.
So here's our first objection, right? Let me talk to my family. Probably one of the most frustrating objections to deal with. And the good news is Chris has something for it. So we're going to hit the play button here and listen to his carefully thought out response. And then I'm going to comment on it.
And right now I'm in the middle. I'm waiting for the downstairs apartment to be done, because I'm going to go downstairs because the manager knows I fractured my hip and the stairs are just getting kind of ridiculous. And I got some other things going on. Do you have a number I can call you directly back at?
I just text you from my direct number. It's a 346 number. Yeah, just text you.
So the nice thing about this, what Chris is about to do, is he's agreeing to do the callback. And this is a trick that I picked up doing an interview with Tim and Julian at Advanced Agent Marketing. Is they agree to do callbacks. They agree that, hey, yeah, I'll call you back at this time and do this, and they go through the motions here to lower the client's defenses. But then they also say a nice little script that's something along the lines of like, so I need to be prepared before we do this presentation. What are the two things I need to prepare to answer for? And they'll give you the real objections that way versus if you're like, well, how do you mean when you say I need to think about it? A nice strategy to get through things. But anyways, what Chris is doing to go back is agreeing to call the client back. Of course he's not, but to get the client's defenses down so he can go in for the kill.
That's my virtual business card and my beautiful face and all my information. Just to let you know, the you have to get approved for this stuff, so you can't just buy it. You could go 30 days out for the payment. No payments due when we do the application. They only require that you show the form of payment you're going to use, but if you want it to start in February, it starts in February.
So very important. I think this is probably the most common objection that prospects have that is never really voiced, is coming up with the money today. Most people think that that's a requirement. That isn't. You can put the client's payment off for a month, usually with most carriers, sometimes even a little bit longer. And so it's important to address this either earlier on or when they say something like, I need to think about it or talk to my pet rock or whatever their objection is. And then let them know, hey, the payment's no big deal. We did a call. I need to put it up on YouTube. It was absolutely amazing. This agent had like dozens upon dozens of objections throughout the call. She kept pushing forward. Then at the end, they went back and forth on objections 20 times until it dawned on the agent that, oh, you don't have to make the payment today. You can just put it off till next month. And then once the client heard that, she's like, oh, okay, I guess I'll do it then. And all of that resistance went away. So moral of the story here, this is why your clients object a lot of times, coming up with the money today. So make sure you mention something like Chris and say, hey, we don't need the money. It's buy now, pay later. We just need to get you approved, and then we'll set up payment for the following month.
It's important to do the application, of course, but however you like to, it's all done over the phone. Takes 15 minutes to do. You want to go talk to your sister by all means, but there's nothing to talk about until you get approved.
And this is a great line to use. You can talk to your sister, that's fine, but there's nothing to talk about until you actually get the application approved, right? Lowering the defenses, making sure you tell the client it's just 15 minutes, it's really fast, it's painless. Let's just get this done. You'll be happy you did. How do you spell your last name? And that's kind of the closing language that I would use that maybe Chris isn't using here, is going ahead and just imagine you're pulling out the application and then typing up their last name as you start the app. Because if they start giving that information, they'll start to give you the rest of the information to fill out the app. And that's kind of an assumptive close that we want to use. And that I would recommend Chris do here.
Okay.
And she's closed, right? So that's all it took. There wasn't a lot of resistance there. It was kind of a smoke screen. And so what Chris needs to do is say, great, let's go ahead and start the process of getting you, to see if we can get you approved, pull up the application to begin it. And again, sometimes agents will meander on this point. They'll go back and forth and start to have a conversation, do this and do that. Get the application out. Say, great, sounds perfect. It's a great decision you've made. Then go to the application and start to close the client, okay?
Well, I mean, looking at by you, are you, does it sound like I'm going to get approved, or do you think, well, no, or?
I've had people tell me that they're 100% healthy, don't take any medications, and get declined. It all depends on what your medical record.
Everybody wants what they may not be able to get. People have no rush to the thing that they know they're going to get approved for. So strategically, I made this mistake as an agent. I said, hey, you're healthy. We're going to get you approved. Everything's going to be great. I would assure them of this before we got to the close. And that's the wrong psychology to use. The better psychology in your scripting is to use scarcity as the motivator. I don't know if I'm going to get you approved. The last lady I did said she was perfectly healthy, and she bombed the exam or the application and didn't get any coverage, right? And so that's why it's important to see if we can even do this by submitting an application. Can I get your spelling of your last name, right?
So there's no physical anymore. There's no blood test, urine test, or anything like that. What they do is they check your medical records, your MIB report, and then they approve you or decline you based off of that. But it's all done immediately when we do the application. And, via email, you do an email signature, and then it gets submitted to the company, and then we find out if you're approved or not. It's pretty easy stuff. It's not really that difficult.
Again, here she's being closed again. You're like, okay, yeah, you're right, let's do it. So again, Chris, Close them. It's you send the app in, you do this, pretty easy stuff. Can we do it? Can we move forward? Or what's the spelling of your last name? Just throw out that last closing statement, because this lady, you got her. But there's going to be other leads out there where you don't do this and you're going to lose those prospects.
Yeah, all right, let's go ahead.
And notice how she had this whole concocted excuse that she couldn't do it right now because her, downstairs apartment was being restructured or rebuilt and this and that. Like, that's all smoke screens, BS, right? All it took is one rebuttal to get through it. And that's how a lot of your prospects are. Some of those prospects that you talk to, guys, you don't push back on this stuff. It's BS. You don't believe any of it. It's all fake. Everybody's got 15 minutes for something they desperately know they need in order to complete and finish it. And it's your job to sell them on that. Why today is the day to take action, not tomorrow, because tomorrow never comes with our prospects. They change their phone number. They go into the witness protection program. And then you're without anybody to actually talk to and close. And then they may die and not get coverage because you didn't do your job closing them. With that said, you know what to do now. Just keep listening.
Okay. Which one do you want to do? Do you want to do the one that's immediate, or do you want to do the waiting period one? Take your time. There's no rush. I work till 9 o'clock at night.
And there's another issue with this. I just realized at the close here, which one do you want to start with? This first day coverage one or the 2-year wait? Shut up. Don't say anything.